Most people would throw these coins away without a second thought. Dirty, worn out, covered in crust, looking completely worthless. But what if I told you, some of these old Washington $quarter coins, even in bad condition, can still be worth serious money? Today we're counting down the top 6 old, dirty and heavily worn Washington quarters that collectors are still hunting for, the kind hiding in junk drawers, piggy banks and forgotten collections. You'll see coins that look damaged, but carry hidden value, rare dates and surprising demand. So before you clean that coin, or worse spend it, watch this till the end, because one small detail could turn a crusty old quarter into a valuable treasure. Let's get started. First up, let's take a deep look at the 1968 Washington $quarter without a mint mark, a coin that many people have seen, handled, and ignored for decades. At first glance, it may look like nothing more than an old, dirty quarter sitting in a drawer or mixed in with spare change. The surface appears dull, the shine is long gone, and the coin shows clear signs of heavy use. But as you're about to discover, coins like this can hold surprising stories, hidden details, and in rare cases, serious collector value. The year 1968 was an important time in U.S. coin history. Just a few years earlier, in 1965, the United States stopped using silver in circulating quarters and switched to a copper-nickel-clad composition. This change was made because silver prices were rising, and the government needed a more affordable way to produce coins. By 1968, this new type of quarter was still fairly new to the public, and millions of them were being made to meet demand. Now here's something very important. Most 1968 quarters actually have a mint mark, either D for Denver or S for San Francisco, and these marks are usually found on the front of the coin. But finding a 1968 Washington quarter without any mint mark at all is unusual. That's where things start to get interesting. Coins without mint marks from this year can sometimes be the result of minting errors. In rare situations, the mint mark may not have been properly punched into the die, or it may have been worn away during production. This creates what collectors call a missing mint mark error, and these types of coins can attract strong interest if verified. Let's take a closer look at the coin itself. On the front, you'll see the familiar profile of George Washington facing left. This design has been used on quarters since 1932 and is one of the most recognized coin designs in the United States. Even on a heavily circulated coin, you can still make out Washington's outline, though the fine details in his hair and face may be worn smooth. The word Liberty appears above his head, and I in God we trust is placed to the side. On an old, dirty coin like this, these words may look faint or partially worn, but they are still key features that collectors examine closely. The date 1968 should be visible near the bottom, and its clarity plays a big role in determining interest and value. Now flip the coin over and you'll see the classic eagle design on the reverse. The eagle stands with wings spread wide, holding arrows and an olive branch, symbolizing strength and peace. Above it reads United States of America and below is $quarter. On a worn coin, the eagle's feathers may appear flattened, and the finer details may be difficult to see, but the overall design remains recognizable. What makes this particular coin stand out is its condition. The surface shows heavy dirt buildup, dark discoloration and years of wear. This is often caused by natural oxidation and long-term exposure to air, moisture, and handling. Many people assume this kind of condition lowers value, and in many cases it does. But in the world of coin collecting, condition is only one part of the story. Sometimes, coins in poor condition actually survive because they stayed in circulation for so long that no one thought to remove them. During that time, rare minting errors could go unnoticed. That means a coin that looks worn and dirty might still carry a valuable mistake hidden beneath the surface. Let's talk about some of the possible errors collectors look for in a 1968 quarter like this. One of the most important is the missing mint mark itself. If this coin truly left the mint without a mint mark due to a production error, it immediately becomes much more interesting. Another thing to watch for is doubling. This happens when the coin is struck more than once slightly off alignment, causing letters or numbers to appear doubled. On a worn coin this can be hard to see, but under magnification, it may still be visible around the date or lettering. Off-center strikes are another possibility. These occur when the coin blank was not properly aligned during striking, causing part of the design to be cut off. Even a small off-center shift can increase collector interest. Then there are die cracks and cuts. These appear as raised lines or blobs of metal on the coin's surface and are caused by damage to the die used to strike the coin. On an old coin, these features can sometimes be mistaken for scratches, but trained collectors know the difference. The dirty, aged surface may also hide lamination errors. These occur when the metal layers of the coin separate slightly, creating a peeling or cracked appearance. While they may look like damage, they are actually minting flaws that collectors value. Now let's talk about market demand, because this is where things really get exciting. Over the past decade, interest in error coins has grown rapidly. Online videos, coin roll hunting, and collector communities have brought more attention to coins that were once ignored. This has increased competition at auctions and pushed prices higher for rare finds. Coins like the 1968 Washington quarter without a mint mark sit in a very interesting position. On one hand, they are modern enough to still be found in circulation or old collections. On the other hand, true error examples are extremely rare. This combination creates strong demand among collectors who are always searching for the next hidden treasure. Condition still matters, but rarity matters more. A heavily worn coin with a confirmed error can sometimes be worth far more than a perfect coin without one. That's why collectors carefully examine even the dirtiest coins before dismissing them. In today's market, a standard 1968 quarter in this condition might not attract much attention. But if this coin is confirmed to have a genuine missing mint mark error, or another strong minting anomaly, its value can rise dramatically. Verified examples with clear and desirable errors have been known to reach values ranging from $180,000 to $245,500 or more, depending on how strong the error is and how well it can be seen. Professional grading plays a huge role here. Coins that are authenticated by trusted services like PCGS or NGC gain credibility and attract serious buyers. These companies examine the coin closely, confirm any errors, and assign a grade based on condition. This process gives collectors confidence and often leads to higher auction prices. But beyond the value, there is something even more fascinating about this coin. It represents a moment in time. It passed through countless hands, was used in everyday life, and survived decades without being noticed. Its worn surface tells a story of movement, trade, and history. Think about where this coin might have been. It could have been used in a small shop in the late 1960s, carried in someone's pocket during a road trip, or stored away in a jar for years before being rediscovered. Every mark on its surface is a piece of that journey. Collectors often say that coins like this are more than just money. They are physical connections to the past. And sometimes they hold secrets that only careful observation can reveal. So here's the real question. How many coins like this are still out there, sitting unnoticed in drawers, jars, or old collections? And how many of them carry hidden errors that could turn them into valuable collectibles? That's what makes coin collecting so exciting. It's not just about buying expensive pieces. It's about discovering something rare where others see nothing special. So the next time you come across an old, dirty quarter, don't ignore it. Take a closer look. Check the date. Look for a mint mark. Examine the surface for unusual details. Because hidden in that worn piece of metal could be a story, a mystery, and possibly a value far greater than you ever expected. And remember, rare coins don't stand out at first glance. They stay hidden, waiting for someone curious enough to notice them. Next up, take a close look at the 1984 Washington quarter dollar with AP mint mark, a coin that most people would never think twice about. It's the kind of quarter that feels ordinary the moment you see it. Old, worn down, maybe a little dirty, with faded details and years of use showing across the surface. The shine is gone, the edges are soft, and the whole coin looks like it has been through decades of everyday life. Most people would toss it aside without a second thought. But this is exactly the kind of coin that can surprise you if you know what to look for. The year 1984 may not sound special at first, but it sits in an interesting place in U.S. coin history. By this time, the Washington quarter had already been in use for over 50 years. It had become one of the most familiar coins in the country, used daily for small purchases, vending machines, parking meters, and more. Because it was so common, people stopped paying attention to it. And that's when hidden details began slipping past unnoticed. This particular coin carries AP mint mark, which tells us it was made in Philadelphia. Before 1980, Philadelphia coins usually did not have a mint mark, but by 1984, the P was clearly added to identify its origin. That small letter, sitting just to the right of the portrait, plays a bigger role than most people realize. For collectors, mint marks are one of the first clues when studying a coin, and sometimes they are the key to discovering something rare. Now take a moment and really picture this coin. On the front, you'll see the well-known image of George Washington facing left. Even in heavily circulated condition, his outline is still visible, though the fine details in his hair and face are likely worn smooth. The word liberty stretches across the top, and I in God we trust sits to the side. On an old coin like this, those letters may look faded or uneven, but they still hold important clues. The date 1984 appears at the bottom, and this is where careful collectors slow down and look closer. Sometimes, small differences in the numbers can reveal something unusual. Slight doubling, thicker digits, or uneven spacing may point to a minting issue that happened the moment the coin was struck. Flip the coin over and you'll find the classic eagle design. The eagle stands strong with wings spread wide, holding arrows and an olive branch. Around it, you'll see United States of America and quarter dollar. On a heavily used coin, the eagle's feathers are often worn flat, and the details can look soft or blurry. But even here, hidden signs can still exist. Now let's talk about the condition, because this coin clearly shows its age. The surface has that dull gray look that comes from years of handling. There may be scratches, small dents, and marks from being dropped, stacked, and moved around countless times. The edges may feel smoother than they should, and the original shine is long gone. This is what collectors call heavily circulated condition. At first, this might seem like a bad thing. After all, most people think coins need to look perfect to be valuable. But in the world of error coins, that's not always true. Sometimes, the most worn coins are the ones that stayed in circulation the longest, and that means they had more chances to go unnoticed. A rare mistake could have been hiding on this coin for decades, ignored simply because of how it looks. Now here's where things get interesting. Coins from the 1980s were made in huge numbers, but during high-speed production, mistakes still happened. The machines were fast, the demand was high, and small errors slipped through. One of the first things collectors look for on a 1984 P quarter is doubling. This can appear on the date, the lettering, or even on Washington's profile. It happens when the coin is struck more than once in slightly different positions. To the naked eye, it might look like a shadow or blur, but under magnification, it becomes much clearer. Another important feature to check is the mint mark itself. The P can sometimes show signs of being doubled, shifted, or poorly formed. These small differences can turn an ordinary coin into something collectors actively search for. Off-center strikes are another possibility. These occur when the coin blank was not properly lined up during the minting process. The result is a coin where part of the design is missing or cut off. Even a slight shift can make a big difference in value. Then there are die cracks. These appear as raised lines running across the coin's surface. They are caused by cracks in the die used to strike the coin. On an old, worn coin, these lines can blend in with scratches, but they are actually part of the metal itself, not damage. Cuds are another type of error to watch for. These look like raised blobs of metal, often near the edge of the coin. They happen when a piece of the die breaks off, leaving a gap that fills with metal during striking. These are easy to miss if you're not looking closely. There is also the chance of lamination errors. These occur when the metal layers of the coin separate slightly, creating a peeling or cracked effect. On a heavily circulated coin, this can look like damage, but it may actually be a rare minting flaw. Now think about this for a moment. Millions of 1984 quarters were made. Most of them are still out there, mixed in with everyday change or sitting in jars in old collections. But only a very small number left the mint with these kinds of errors. And even fewer survived long enough to be discovered. That's what creates demand. Collectors are not just looking for old coins. They are looking for rare combinations, coins with errors, history, and character. And when one of these coins appears, especially with a clear and visible mistake, it can attract serious attention. Over the years, interest in error coins has grown rapidly. More people are checking their change, watching videos, and learning what to look for. This has made the market more competitive, especially for coins that were once ignored. Now here comes the part that surprises most people. A heavily circulated 1984 Washington quarter with a P mint mark might seem worthless at first. But if it carries a strong verified mint error, like clear doubling, a major die crack, or an off-center strike, it can reach values in the range of $120,000 to $380,000 or even more at auction, depending on how rare and visible the error is. That kind of value doesn't come from the metal. It comes from rarity, demand, and the story behind the coin. A coin like this becomes more than just spare change. It becomes a piece of minting history. Professional grading can make a big difference as well. When a coin is examined and certified by a trusted grading service, it gives buyers confidence. It confirms that the error is real and not just damage. This can lead to higher bids and stronger interest from serious collectors. But beyond the value, there's something else that makes this coin special. It's the journey it has taken. This coin has been used, handled, and passed from one person to another for years. It has seen everyday life in a way that brand new coins never have. Every scratch, every mark, every bit of wear tells a story. And hidden within that story could be something rare, something valuable, something that has been waiting all this time to be noticed. So the next time you come across an old quarter like this, don't ignore it. Take a closer look, check the mint mark, study the date, Look for anything unusual, because what seems like an ordinary coin could turn out to be something much more. Moving on, let's talk about the 1990 Washington quarter dollar with a D mint mark, a coin that doesn't just look different. It almost feels out of place the moment you see it. At first glance, you might think something is wrong with it. A quarter is supposed to have that familiar silver gray color, right? But this one shows a strange red shade across its surface, almost like a copper tone shining through. That alone is enough to make anyone stop and take a second look. This coin comes from the Denver Mint, marked by the small D you'll find on the front. By 1990, the Washington quarter had already been part of everyday American life for decades. People used it without thinking, passing it from hand to hand, never imagining that a small change in color or texture could mean something important. But coins like this prove that even in modern times, surprises can still happen. Now picture the front of the coin. You'll see the familiar face of George Washington facing left, just like on every Washington quarter since 1932. The word liberty sits above his head, and I in God we trust is placed to the side. The date 1990 appears clearly at the bottom. But on this particular coin, something feels different. The surface doesn't reflect light the way a normal quarter should. Instead of a dull silver tone, you may notice a reddish or copper-like glow, especially under certain angles. Flip the coin over and the classic eagle design appears. The eagle spreads its wings wide, holding arrows and an olive branch, a symbol of both strength and peace. Around it are the words United States of America and quarter dollar. But again, that unusual red shade may carry over to the reverse side as well, making the entire coin stand out from the rest. So what causes this kind of color? That's where things start to get interesting. Normally, quarters made in 1990 are composed of a copper core with a nickel coating on the outside. That outer layer gives the coin its typical silver appearance. But in rare cases, something goes wrong during the minting process. One possibility is that the outer nickel layer did not form correctly, or it wore away unevenly, allowing the copper core to show through. This can create that reddish tone you're seeing. In some cases, it may not be wear at all, but a minting error where the coin was struck on an improperly prepared planchet. Another possibility involves chemical reactions over time. If a coin is exposed to certain environments, like moisture, heat, or even chemicals, it can change color. But here's the key difference. Natural environmental damage often looks uneven, patchy, or dull. A true mint-related color variation usually appears more consistent and can affect the entire surface in a more uniform way. This is why collectors pay very close attention to coins like this. That red shade might not just be discoloration. It could be a sign of something much more unusual. Now let's talk about errors, because this is where the real excitement begins. Coins from the 1990s were produced in massive numbers, but even with improved technology, mistakes still slipped through. And when they did, they created coins that collectors now search for. One of the first things to check on this 1990 D quarter is the mint mark itself. The D should be clear and properly shaped. But in some rare cases, it may appear doubled, slightly shifted, or even distorted. These mint mark errors are highly collectible, especially when they are easy to see. Next, look closely at the date. The numbers 1990 might show signs of doubling, where the edges of the digits appear thick or shadowed. This happens when the coin is struck more than once with slight movement between strikes. Another feature to watch for is die cracks. These appear as raised lines running across the surface of the coin. They are caused by cracks in the die used to strike the coin. On a coin with unusual color like this, die cracks can stand out even more clearly. Off-center strikes are also possible. If the coin was not perfectly aligned during minting, part of the design may be missing or shifted. Even a small off-center strike can make a big difference in value. Then there are lamination errors. These occur when the layers of metal begin to separate, creating a peeling or cracked look. On a coin with a red color tone, this kind of error can be easier to spot because the underlying metal may be more visible. Now think about how many 1990 quarters were made. Millions upon millions entered circulation, used in stores, vending machines, and everyday transactions. Most of them look exactly the same. But only a tiny fraction show unusual features like this red coloration combined with possible minting errors. That's what makes collectors pay attention. It's not just about age. It's about rarity, uniqueness, and the story behind the coin. Over the years, interest in modern era coins has grown quickly. More people are searching through their change, looking for anything unusual. Social media and online videos have made it easier than ever to learn what to look for. And because of that, coins that were once ignored are now being studied closely. A coin like this sits right in that sweet spot. It's modern enough to still be found in everyday places, but unusual enough to stand out when examined carefully. That combination creates strong demand. Now here comes the part that really grabs attention. A normal 1990D Washington quarter is worth only face value. But when you add a rare feature, like a strong red color caused by a minting issue, combined with visible errors such as doubling or die cracks, the value can rise dramatically. In today's market, a verified example with a clear and unusual red tone, especially if linked to a mint error, can reach values in the range of $147,000 to $235,000 or more depending on how rare and well-defined the features are. That kind of value surprises a lot of people. After all, this is a coin that many have held without ever thinking twice about it. But that's exactly how hidden treasures work. They don't look special at first. They reveal their value only to those who take the time to look closer. Professional grading is very important for coins like this. Experts can determine whether the red color is due to a minting issue or just environmental damage. They can also confirm any additional errors and give the coin an official grade. This adds trust and can greatly increase interest from serious buyers. But beyond the value, there's something else that makes this coin fascinating. It challenges what we expect. A quarter is supposed to look a certain way, and when it doesn't, it forces us to ask why. That curiosity is what drives collectors. This coin also reminds us that even in modern times, when technology is advanced and quality control is strict, mistakes can still happen. And when they do, they create something unique. So the next time you come across a quarter that looks a little different, don't ignore it. Pay attention to the color. Look at the surface. Check the mint mark and the date. Because something as simple as a red shade could be the first clue that you're holding something rare. And remember, the most valuable coins are often the ones that don't look perfect. They stand out in quiet ways, waiting for someone to notice the difference. Next up, let's slow things down and take a closer look at the 1986 Washington quarter dollar with AP mint mark, a coin that at first glance might look too far gone to matter. The surface is dark, almost black in places, with uneven patches of oxidation spreading across both sides. It doesn't shine. It doesn't stand out. In fact, most people would probably push it aside without even thinking twice. But sometimes, the coins that look the worst are the ones hiding the biggest surprises. This quarter comes from the Philadelphia Mint, marked with a small P on the front. By 1986, the Washington quarter had already been a part of everyday life in the United States for more than half a century. It was one of the most common coins in circulation, used constantly in stores, machines, and daily transactions. Because of that, people rarely paid attention to it. It became invisible, just another piece of change moving from one hand to another. Now imagine holding this coin in your hand. On the front, you'll see the familiar image of George Washington facing left. The word Liberty arches above his head, and I in God we trust sits just to the side. The date 1986 is placed clearly at the bottom. But here's where things feel different. The surface is no longer the bright silver color you expect. Instead, it has turned dark, almost black, with a rough, aged look that tells a story of time, exposure, and heavy use. Flip the coin over, and the eagle design comes into view. The eagle spreads its wings wide, holding arrows and an olive branch. Around it, the words United States of America and quarter dollar are still visible, though worn and softened by years of circulation. The same dark oxidation appears here too, giving the entire coin a deep, aged tone. So what caused this kind of appearance? That's the question that separates a regular coin from one worth studying. This black oxidation is usually the result of long-term exposure to environmental conditions. Moisture, air, chemicals, and even the oils from human hands can slowly change the surface of a coin over time. The metal reacts, and instead of staying bright, it darkens. But here's the key detail. Not all oxidation is the same. Some coins show uneven damage, while others develop a more consistent, natural patina. Experienced collectors know that a natural, untouched surface can actually be more desirable than a cleaned coin. Cleaning removes not just dirt, but also the original texture and character, and that can reduce value instantly. In this case, the black oxidation may be telling us that the coin has never been cleaned or altered. It has simply aged over time, exactly as it was meant to. That alone makes it more interesting than a coin that has been polished to look new. Now let's go deeper, because condition is only part of the story. Coins from the 1980s were produced in huge numbers, but even with modern equipment, mistakes still happened. And when those mistakes appear on a coin like this, they can turn something ordinary into something collectors actively search for. Start with the mint mark. The P should be clear and properly shaped, but sometimes it shows signs of doubling or slight movement. Under magnification you might see that the letter looks thicker than normal or slightly shifted. This kind of detail can point to a minting error. Next, examine the date. The numbers 1986 may show doubling or uneven edges. This happens when the coin is struck more than once in slightly different positions. On a dark coin like this, these details can sometimes be easier to spot because of the contrast in the surface. Die cracks are another feature to watch for. These appear as raised lines running across the coin. They are not scratches, but actual flaws in the die that transferred onto the coin during striking. On a coin with black oxidation, these lines can stand out clearly against the darker background. You may also find cuts which look like raised blobs of metal near the edges. These happen when a piece of the die breaks off, leaving a gap that fills with metal during the strike. Even a small cut can make a coin much more interesting to collectors. Off-center strikes are another possibility. If the coin blank was not perfectly aligned during minting, part of the design may be missing or shifted. Even a slight off-center error can increase interest. And then there are lamination errors. These occur when the layers of metal begin to separate, creating a peeling or cracked effect. On a coin with heavy oxidation, this kind of error can blend in, making it easy to miss unless you look closely. Now think about how many 1986 quarters were made. Millions entered circulation and most of them still exist today. But only a very small number carry these kinds of unusual features. And even fewer survived long enough to be discovered. That's what creates demand. Collectors are always searching for coins that are different, coins that tell a story, coins that stand out in a sea of sameness. And a coin like this, with its dark, aged surface and potential minting errors, fits that description perfectly. Over the past few years, interest in error coins has grown rapidly. More people are checking their change, learning about minting mistakes, and sharing their discoveries. This has pushed the market forward, making rare error coins more valuable than ever. A coin like this sits right in the middle of that trend. It may not look impressive at first, but with the right combination of features, it can become something much more. Now here's the moment that surprises most people. A standard 1986p quarter in circulated condition is usually worth only face value. But if this coin has a confirmed mint error, such as strong doubling, a clear die crack, or a visible off-center strike, its value can rise dramatically. In today's market, examples with strong, verified errors and clear features have reached values between $150,000 and $242,000 or more, depending on how rare and visible the error is. That kind of value doesn't come from the condition alone. It comes from rarity, demand, and the story behind the coin. A dark, heavily oxidized surface may not look appealing to everyone, but to a collector, it can be a sign of authenticity and history. Professional grading can make a big difference here. When a coin is examined and certified by experts, it confirms whether the oxidation is natural and whether any errors are genuine. This gives buyers confidence and can lead to higher auction prices. But beyond the numbers, there's something else that makes this coin special. It's the journey it has taken. This coin has been used, handled, and exposed to the world for decades. It has changed hands countless times, each moment adding to its story. The dark surface you see is not just damage. It's a record of time. It shows where the coin has been, how it was used, and how it survived. And hidden within that story could be something rare, something valuable, something that has been waiting all this time to be noticed. So the next time you find a coin that looks too old, too dirty, or too worn to matter, don't ignore it. Take a closer look. Study the details. Because sometimes, the coins that seem the least valuable are the ones that hold the greatest surprises. And remember, rare coins don't always shine. Sometimes they hide in the dark, waiting for someone to see their true worth. Next up, let's take a closer look at the 1993 Washington quarter dollar with a D mint mark, a coin that most people would never give a second thought. It's old, it's dirty, and it looks like it has been through years of everyday use. The surface is dull, the shine is gone, and there are marks and scratches scattered across both sides. To many it feels like just another worn-out quarter. But coins like this often carry stories, and sometimes hidden value that only careful eyes can uncover. This coin was struck at the Denver Mint, which is marked by the small D you'll find on the front. By 1993 the Washington quarter had already been in circulation for over 60 years. It had become one of the most recognized coins in the United States, used daily in shops, machines, and pockets across the country. Because it was so common, people stopped paying attention to it. And that's exactly how rare details can go unnoticed for years. Now imagine holding this coin in your hand. On the front, you'll see the well-known profile of George Washington facing left. Even in this old, dirty condition, his outline is still visible, though the finer details in his hair and face may be worn smooth. Above his head, the word Liberty stretches across the top, and I in God We Trust appears to the side. The date 1993 sits clearly at the bottom, though it may look slightly faded or uneven due to wear. Turn the coin over and you'll find the classic eagle design. The eagle stands with its wings spread wide, holding arrows and an olive branch. Around it are the words United States of America and quarter dollar. On a coin like this, the eagle's feathers are often worn down, and the details may look soft or flat. But even here, important clues can still be hiding in plain sight. Let's talk about the condition because this coin clearly shows its age. The surface has that dark, dirty look that comes from years of handling, storage, and exposure to the environment. Small scratches, dents, and marks are visible, and the overall appearance is far from perfect. This is what collectors call a heavily circulated coin. At first, this might seem like a bad thing. Most people believe that only shiny, perfect coins are worth anything. But in the world of coin collecting, that's not always true. Sometimes, coins in rough condition are the ones that stayed in circulation the longest, which means they had more chances to go unnoticed. And if a rare minting error is present, it could have been hiding there all along. Now let's dig deeper into what makes a coin like this interesting. Coins from the early 1990s were produced in massive numbers, but even with improved technology, mistakes still happened. During high-speed production, small errors could slip through, and those errors are what collectors search for today. One of the first things to examine is the mint mark. The D should be clean and properly shaped, but in some cases, it may appear doubled, slightly shifted, or uneven. These small differences can indicate a minting error and can increase the coin's appeal. Next, look closely at the date. The numbers 1993 might show signs of doubling, where the edges appear thicker or slightly shadowed. This happens when the coin is struck more than once with slight movement between strikes. It can be subtle, but under magnification, it becomes easier to see. Another feature to watch for is die cracks. These appear as raised lines across the surface of the coin. They are caused by cracks in the die used to strike the coin, and they become part of the coin itself. On an old, dirty coin, these lines can blend in with scratches, but they are actually very different. Cuds are another type of error that collectors look for. These appear as raised blobs of metal, often near the edge of the coin. They occur when a piece of the die breaks off, leaving a gap that fills with metal during the strike. Even a small cud can make a coin much more interesting. Off-center strikes are also possible. If the coin blank was not properly aligned during minting, part of the design may be missing or shifted. Even a slight off-center error can increase value, especially if the date is still visible. There is also the chance of lamination errors. These happen when the metal layers begin to separate, creating a peeling or cracked effect. On a dirty coin, this can look like damage, but it may actually be a rare minting flaw. Now think about how many 1993 quarters were made. Millions were produced and released into circulation. Most of them are still out there today, mixed in with everyday change or sitting in jars and collections. But only a very small number carry these kinds of unusual features. And even fewer have been noticed. That's what creates demand. Collectors are always searching for coins that are different, coins that stand out, coins that tell a story. And a coin like this, with its old, dirty condition and potential minting errors, fits that description. In recent years, interest in error coins has grown rapidly. More people are learning what to look for, checking their change, and sharing their finds. This has made the market more competitive, especially for coins that were once ignored. A coin like this sits right in the middle of that trend. It may not look special at first, but with the right combination of features, it can become something much more valuable. Now here comes the part that surprises most people. A normal 1993 D Washington quarter in this condition is usually worth only face value. But if it has a strong verified mint error, such as clear doubling, a major die crack, or a noticeable off-center strike, its value can rise dramatically. In today's market, examples with visible and confirmed errors have reached values in the range of $140,000 to $240,000 or more, depending on how rare and clear the error is. That kind of value doesn't come from the metal itself. It comes from rarity, demand, and the story behind the coin. A coin like this becomes more than just spare change. It becomes a piece of minting history. Professional grading is very important for coins like this. Experts can examine the coin, confirm any errors, and determine whether the condition is natural or altered. This gives buyers confidence and can greatly increase the coin's appeal at auction. But beyond the value, there is something else that makes this coin special. It's the journey it has taken. This coin has been used, handled, and passed from person to person for years. It has been part of everyday life, unnoticed and unappreciated. Every mark, every scratch, every bit of dirt tells a story. And hidden within that story could be something rare, something valuable, something waiting to be discovered. So the next time you come across an old, dirty quarter, don't ignore it. Take a closer look. Check the mint mark. Study the date. Look for anything unusual. Because what seems like an ordinary coin could turn out to be something extraordinary. Next up, picture this for a moment. You're cleaning out an old drawer, maybe one you haven't opened in years. There are random things inside. Old receipts, keys, maybe a few coins that never made it back into circulation. Among them, you spot a 1995 Washington quarter with a small P mint mark. It doesn't shine. In fact, it looks dull, dark, almost black in places. Most people would ignore it without a second thought. But here's where the story changes. Coins like this don't start out looking worn and dark. When this quarter was first made in 1995, it came out of the mint bright and clean, with sharp details and a smooth surface. Over the years, it moved from hand to hand, pocket to pocket, slowly picking up where tiny scratches, and that deep black shade you see now. That color didn't happen overnight. It built up over time, layer by layer, through exposure to air, moisture, and everyday use. And sometimes, that kind of aging hides something important. Take a closer look at the front of the coin. You'll see the familiar face of George Washington. His portrait has been on the quarter for decades, so most people don't even think about it anymore. But when a coin has this kind of dark surface, small details can stand out in unusual ways. Light hits it differently. Shadows fall into the design. Things that were once easy to miss can suddenly become visible. Now imagine turning the coin slowly in your hand. The eagle on the back is still there, wings spread wide, but the darker tone gives it a completely different look. It almost feels older than it really is, like it carries more history than a typical 1995 coin. And that's exactly why coins like this get attention from collectors. You see, during the mid-1990s, the US Mint was producing huge numbers of quarters to keep up with demand. Machines were running fast, and even though the system was advanced, it wasn't perfect. Small mistakes could still slip through. Most people never noticed them because the coins looked normal at a glance. But not all of them were truly normal. Some 1995 quarters came out with tiny flaws, things like slight doubling in the date, a mint mark that wasn't perfectly placed, or faint lines caused by stress in the metal. On a bright, shiny coin, these details can be hard to see. But on a dark, heavily circulated piece like this one, those same features can become easier to spot if you know how to look. Now here's something most people don't realize. That black color you see isn't always a bad thing. In many cases, it's a natural result of oxidation. The metal reacts with its environment over time, especially if the coin has been stored in a humid place or handled often. Instead of destroying the coin, this process can actually protect parts of its surface. And sometimes, it does something even more interesting. It highlights hidden flaws from the moment the coin was made. Collectors pay close attention to this. They look for small clues. Is the mint mark slightly off? Do the numbers in the date look thicker or doubled? Are there faint raised lines running across the surface that shouldn't be there? These are the kinds of details that can turn an ordinary coin into something rare. There are also more noticeable mistakes that can happen. A coin might be struck slightly off-center, leaving part of the design shifted. It might have a die crack, which shows up as a raised line across the surface. In rare cases, there could even be a lamination issue, where the metal starts to peel or separate. Now think about this. Out of the millions of 1995 quarters made, only a tiny number carry these kinds of features. And even fewer survive in a condition where those features can still be seen clearly. That's where the real interest begins. Over the past few years, more collectors have started paying attention to coins from this time period. What used to be considered too modern to matter is now being studied more closely. People are going back through old collections, jars of change, and forgotten coin boxes, looking for pieces that were missed. And coins like this, dark, worn, and unusual, are often the ones that get a second look. Because here's the surprising part. When a 1995 P quarter shows clear minting errors along with a strong, natural black oxidation pattern, it can move far beyond face value. In the right situation, with the right combination of features, these coins have reached values between $200,000 and $350,000 or even more at auction. That kind of number changes everything. Suddenly, that coin in the drawer isn't just spare change anymore. It becomes a possibility. A question. Something worth checking instead of ignoring. Of course, not every dark coin is valuable. That's important to understand. But the only way to know is to look carefully. To slow down and really study what's in front of you. Because the difference between an ordinary coin and a rare one is often just a tiny detail. And those details are easy to miss if you're not paying attention. So the next time you find a quarter that looks old, dark, or different, don't rush past it. Hold it. Turn it under the light. Look at the small things, the date, the mint mark, the surface. Ask yourself if something feels just a little off. Because sometimes, the coins that look the worst are the ones with the best stories. And every once in a while, one of those stories turns into something much bigger than anyone expected.